ratchet joints. CAD construction. Ah! Who needs such modern baubles when you are a symbol of death itself? Rubber bands and molting heads are the worries of lesser action figures. For me, there is only conquest. Prepare to witness the might of the greatest interstellar invader in human history. I am Megatron!
Ladies and gentlemen, this is internet personality Vangelus, here with a bit of a throwback review. We're gonna go way back in history, and then we're gonna jump forward in history when that history was reduxed and reissued, only it's actually, I think, the second time it was, maybe the third time it was reissued? You're ruining my introduction! This is the TF Collection 6 bookcase-style reissue of G1 Megatron. Check out how Dreamwave that artwork is. These TF Collection boxes were always really cool. I remember back when they were new, and these were like the thing you tried to find a BotCon. They got loads of Velcro and all these bits of paperwork for a binder that came with the, I think, Part 0 reissue of Optimus Prime or Convoy. I'm not going to rip any of this stuff out because I'm far past wanting to do that at this point. But you also can see the toy inside. You've got all your basic Megatron stuff here for your cartoon, vaguely inaccurate robot mode. And then all the other bits. I like the division. There's other exciting stuff like a mace and stickers and a mouse pad. Oh, you see how exciting that is? You open up your toy and you get a mouse pad. And stickers. Oh. Megatron is a Walter P-38 from The Man from U.N.C.L.E. He's apparently actually a little bit undersized, but he doesn't really look it unless you know your guns. I think he looks pretty close to a believable handgun size, which is probably why he never gets sold anywhere in North America anymore, because if you walked around carrying this thing, someone would probably freak out at a distance. Really, take a look at this. It fits in your hand really pleasantly. It has a good heft to it, too, because of the die-cast down here, and it makes clink noises. So that's always helpful. And you know, it's kind of threatening looking, but then if you really want to amp it up, you can take the iconic scope and stick it on top, and now you've got this handgun with a sight. But let's say this is not quite enough for you yet. You want to make this thing even crazier. Well, there's bits and pieces, ladies and gentlemen. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can stick onto this thing. Attaching a variety of black plastic pieces to the front and rear ends of the pistol eventually gives you this monstrosity. This thing is now kind of enormous and crazy, and I think I kind of like it. It definitely looks a bit less realistic now, although I know it's somewhat rooted in realism. But at this point, this thing starts to feel like you can just smack someone over the head with it. I'm not sure why that's a quantifying factor to me, but don't judge me. It is a bit more difficult to hold like this, but it also is more evenly balanced on both ends, so it feels really weighty in your hands now, and it still can totally go clickety-click. What does this clickety-click mean? Let me show you. So Megatron comes with a couple of little frames of these red things. What are these for? Come on, you can guess. And why don't you join me in devaluing this toy a little bit as we cut one of these free. You could say this is like a bonus V-build. Oh, wait, but you hate those videos, don't you? Oh, well. Once you have your bullet in hand, I believe we can just load it in the top here. I've not actually done this before, but it's snugly in place. And let's see what happens when I shoot it at my friendly wall over here. Let's take a step back, actually, just in case this goes all cockeyed. And hey, it totally shot the little red bullet at the thing. Where did the little red bullet go now? Excuse me a second. Okay, so I found my bullet and I set up some impact diffusing cellophanetic anti-kinesis bubble material. So what I'm going to do now is see if this thing can still function as a red bullet firing firearm when it has all of its bits and pieces in place. So let's load her up again. And by her, I mean Rule 63 Megatron. Let's take a step back here and see if this goes through the enormous barrel. It totally did, and it totally didn't go flying off all over the place this time. So this is kind of cool, and this also was never implemented on the American version because this is about as unchild safe as you can get. These things are small, hard red bullets that could totally just like lodge themselves between your eyeball and the inner fleshy, gooey pink layer of the stuff around your eyeball. So, hope that was fun for you. This chrome, by the way, is a hell of a fingerprint magnet. Anyway, enough of this child's play with all these fake firearms and plastic toy guns. We're men! We're adults! Let's transform it to a robot! Knowing that this transformation was designed just under 3 decades ago puts a lot into perspective. It's a simple concept that focuses on using the sparse mass of a handgun to populate a bipedal robot, and I think it does a great job for its time. The use of a spinal shoulder blade frame helps in creating a believable upper body. While the end result is not necessarily a fearsome warlord of evil, it is a cool gun robot. This was the first physical toy that was called Megatron, and don't worry, I did stick his arm cannon on, I'm not that nuts. But you will notice that he does not have any stickers applied whatsoever. I decided not to add any because I kind of like how he looks stickerless. There's still some factory ones on here, but yeah, I do apologize if you want to see what he looks like with stickers. There's lots of pictures online. I just don't really want to start applying those things, especially onto the shiny chrome. I like how it looks without the stickers. If I ever really want to get one with stickers, I'll go hunt down the Encore version. But that having been said, this sculpt is very, very retro, and I do not hold that against it. At this point, it's part of the charm. While he's not incredibly intimidating as a Decepticon leader in this form, what with his short stature and T-Rex tiny arms, I like how he looks in regards to being a 1-to-1 scaled handgun-disguised mechanoid from the Microchange Robo series. Oh yeah, and the trigger crotch. Everything to say about it has been said over the last couple of decades. I like pulling on it. Crotch tugs aside, his posability is more or less illustrated right here. You can move his arms up and down. That's it. You can also sort of make his legs point outwards a bit, but they're on a bit of a ratchety joint such that you can't really easily get them into a midway point, so they're just going to look really, really weird. You can actually extend them out a little ways if you want to have him have a bit more of a solid stance, but that does mean he's got an even funnier looking hip. I prefer to close this stuff up here and just make it all a bit slender and a bit, I guess, stickman. He's also got this tilt here. I guess that's a point of articulation, but that is it as far as posing goes. I don't know if you knew this, but this is a hella old toy. For weaponry, Megatron of course has his arm-mounted fusion cannon, which is removable. He's also got this little cannon down here on his hip. In the cartoon, this actually was pointing up off of his back, and there's a way you can kind of futz this to look like that over here, but it's a bit stressful to the toy, so I'm not gonna do it. However, Megatron also came with another gun, just a bit of a very microchangey looking space weapon that can slide over his hand, kind of plug and place there. And now he's totally got a more of a cannon hand. But actually, you can take this peg here and just stick it into his fist hole. I think it looks cooler when you just slide it over his hand, because then it's just kind of like, hey, guess what? My arm has a cannon on it, and my arm is also a cannon! But this isn't the only thing he comes with. In the States, that was about it. But in Japan, he came with another accessory that his original Microchange toy came with. That being a sword. A very cool looking sword that is enormous and maybe a little bit bigger than it needs to be for the size of his body. But I wish this was in the show somehow, because this actually makes him look a lot more threatening. Because it's kind of like, yes, I do have a gun for an arm, but I also have a sword that is as tall as I am. So I like that sword quite a bit. However, for this version of the toy, they made a new accessory, and this thing I thought was kind of neat. This is based on the iconic fight he had with Optimus Prime's orange axe, and this thing basically plugs into his hand, and now he totally has a purple mace on an actual chain. But he can wave it around. If you hold it over his head and you start swinging the toy around, you can kind of get this thing to... Well, he hits himself in the chest with it, but, you know, all that aside, it's a cool thought, you know, to have this fan-wanky throwback. Okay, that little hip cannon actually does serve a purpose. It lets Megatron do something that I really wish he did in the cartoon. You can take a bunch of the pieces of the pistol add-on components and form them into more or less a giant cannon that uses that little hip-mounted thing as its base. And as you can see, Megatron is entirely unable to actually properly wield it. It outweighs the toughness of his hip joints, and he'll often fall over or lean backwards It is actually solidly connected to him, so the gun won't fall off. It's just that the figure might not be able to put up with actually using it all that often. It's very silly looking, but I kind of like the look of it just because he's looking down the sight, and I wish this mega cannon thing had shown up in a cartoon somewhere. It's just too funny to look at. It can also use this. If you look over here, there's actually a slot right here to stick this bullet into. And, well, we're gonna need to... Hang on a second. Cellophane! Ah, thank you. I mean, kinestio, recyclomatic, bubbletating, anti-kinetic material. Anyway, let's try shooting this thing. So, there's a trigger right here. It's just a switch you pull back. So, will this fire? Totally fired. So this cannon mode is kind of awesome, and it's these non-cartoon aspects that really help me enjoy this toy outside of its appreciation as a classic bit of engineering. And he totally is having trouble standing up. There is something else you can do with all this stuff. This time, using every add-on component to the pistol mode, you assemble a massive gun turret. It easily stands as tall as Megatron himself, and again, it's something that I really wish had shown up in the cartoon. It looks really mean. It's got a similar shape to his enhanced gun mode. You know, the one that he actually looked like in the cartoon. And it rounds out a really cool play pattern. With these handles in the back, you can basically have him hold onto the turret and aim it himself. He's fully plugged in now, and it jacks into the front of his trigger crotch really well. You could say his trigger crotch is powering the machine. And then if you tilt this up a bit, it's totally ready to fire. Ready to fire what, you ask? A little red bullet. Let's load it inside. Oh, I loaded it wrong, and I need the cellophane. All right. Bullet loading and cellophane to me. All right, now we're set to go. So let's pull back and see if this full assembly will also properly fire his little red bullet. Again, it uses that pullback trigger from the massive cannon mode, and I believe that we totally fired the bullet. It works. That was our final firing of the day, ladies and gentlemen. I hope it was as good for you as it was for me, and for little Megatron there. When I look at the original Megatron toy, I see a quirky and excellent piece of retro toy engineering. It'll always be strange to me, though, to look at this as the leader of the Decepticons. I never had Megatron growing up and did not attach the character to this figure's imagery. But when I remember its micro-change roots and take in all the various play patterns it pulls off with its accessories, I always find myself really getting into what it set out to do. If only to appreciate some classic toy engineering, I would recommend tracking down one of the copious number of Megatron reissues out there. Anyway, this has been internet personality Vangelus, and this is a pretty old toy. He's kind of lovable, not intimidating in the least, but don't you just kind of want to cuddle him? Oh, look at you, little Megatron. Oh, you're so cute. Oh, it sounds like there's an angry mob outside my door again. I'll see you guys later. No, seriously, it's not just bubble wrap. It's kineto-bubbleasing, anti-mass transducent, clear plastic polymer. Look it up. Smart guy.